there have been instances of injustice to us, and we have been crying against it. We have been shouting for justice. So we thought of inviting you here and take a larger view of what could be done. We welcome Justice Sir on behalf of the government of Maharashtra.
We hope that this will be initiating a certain process of further participation of journalist organizations like us, wherever we can help and wherever we can increase the functioning of the press club rather the Press Council of India as a much more effective body. It has been functioning very strongly, and particularly we note in the last 1 or 2 years taking up a lot of ground investigation, sending groups of people. Mr. S.N. Sinha, who is also the president of the IJU, as a team, as a journalist representation, they have taken a very sort of forward-thinking and almost aggressive position on defending the journalists' rights. We see that there is a greater need for the intervention today. The attacks on media have become even more serious. Bihar journalist called Dharmendra Singh, he was killed in Rohtas when he was reporting on mining operations of some mafia. More bigger case was the Rajdev Ranjan case, May 13th, 2016. Karun Mishra, Jan Sandesh Times, killed in Sultanpur, the same area where Jagendra Singh was killed about 1 year ago, little more than a year ago. According to the documentation, 9 Indian journalists have been killed last year, and this year the tally is almost 6. The Committee to Protect Journalists, a New York-based body, has investigated 27 killings of journalists over the last 10 years. They found that only in one case actually the accused was prosecuted and was actually sentenced by a lower court, and an appeal, the person got away. Reporters Without Borders in their investigation has said that 9 people were killed in India last year. 9 journalists were killed in 2015. It was the most deadliest year for journalists because 115 journalists worldwide were killed on duty. In the harness they were killed, and out of these, India happened to be number 3, the deadliest, the 3 worst case, the first record after Syria and Iraq. The journalist who is bravely reporting something or who is doing his duty is also the subject of attacks, maybe not physical, but he is subject to attacks of trolling. Hundreds of these cases have come up where certain prominent journalists get trolled all the time. There are also the issues of journalists not receiving their wages properly, contract systems coming in. Now, in those things, whether the Press Council can make an impact, whether they can come in, and because that ultimately becomes a question of defense of journalism and defense of media. Those with equipment, when they go and report a live situation, stand out in the crowd. And invariably, cameramen, photographers become the target of attacks, sometimes of state agencies like the police, sometimes of irate mobs, sometimes of local residents, or sometimes just mafia goons who attack them. A very brazen case which the Press Club took up recently was at Bombay House, the Tata headquarters. The way they attacked was absolutely brazen, and fortunately a video was produced of that which went viral, and ultimately the protests of the Press Club and all forced the Tata group to dismiss 6 of the guards. But the agency which actually carried out the attack, the top through, is still very much in place. It is very heartening to note that the Press Council has suo motu taken up this case. It is the first time a Press Council chairman has come to Mumbai and addressed the press in this way. And we welcome many more such visits, and so that we can deepen the entire network of Press Council reporting and investigation.
The Press Council of India is your body. Excepting me, all the members of the Press Council are from amongst you. The Press Council of India is not to regulate the press. It is to preserve the freedom of the press. When you talk about the safety of the journalist, all the time I find the focus is how many journalists have been killed. Yes, it needs to be focused. But one aspect of the matter which I am trying to project, I am speaking about that, is the social and financial security of the journalist. From any source, if it comes to the Press Council of India, Press Council takes cognizance of that. In many of the cases, we constitute a fact-finding committee. We talked about the killing of a journalist in Siwan. We have constituted a fact-finding committee. The committee had gone, committee had submitted report. We have asked for investigation by the CBI and the matter is being investigated. How to proceed about that? For that purpose, in fact, I have come here to know your view, how to proceed. Some incident had taken place in Mumbai. Few photojournalists have been assaulted. It came to my notice. We have taken suo motu cognizance of the matter and we have called for a report from the police commissioner. As the matter is sub judice, I will not be talking in detail about that, but one assurance I want to give you on behalf of the Press Council, that any person found guilty, however mightier or higher he may be, he will be brought to justice. I am told that many of the journalists are not, what to talk about, well paid. They are not paid to the extent that they can run their family. This aspect of the matter, according to me, you must address. I have few ideas which I am placing before you for your consideration. My idea is to have a fund to be run by your peers. And so far as the Press Council of India is concerned, the Press Council of India receives money as fees from various newspapers. We will contribute a fund for that. And every working journalist shall be entitled and should be entitled for becoming the member of that fund. And if you are a member of that fund, God forbid, if death takes place, you get a certain amount. You retire from an organization. In those cases, you must be given a lump sum of money from that fund. And it can be structured. It's not that it can't be structured, it can be structured. I am contemplating of a welfare fund to be run by the PS body, and one of the PS body is the Press Council of India, excepting me and an outsider in that body. Everybody is the journalist or represents the one or the other group of the media. I am proposing to have a meeting with the Prime Minister of India. In fact, I have written a letter to him and the Information Minister about this. And I said that every working journalist should be the member, are entitled to be the member of that fund. They have to contribute certain amount, and by virtue of that, and it's in the line of, there is a fund called the Advocates Welfare Fund. I think it's being run for the last 30 years, and it's being run very nicely, and it's run by the Bar Council of India. Similarly, the Press Council of India can help you in constituting a fund. We have certain amount. The government has done certain things which increase our fund. Now, for the purpose of having the DAVP advertisement, you have to pay the fee to the Press Council of India. Earlier, they never used to be to pay. We have to spend more money for collection of that fee than what fee we used to receive. Now they have come out with a policy that if you have paid your fee, then you will be entitled to certain points. And to have those points, we have a large number of newspapers who have paid the fee. Political party in power always want to have a cordial relationship with the journalist. And I always say that will be the end of the process. There cannot be a cordial relationship between the journalist and the government. It runs counter. Safety of the journalist is my priority. I tell you very frankly, it's my priority. Whenever we talk about the killing of the journalist, we must talk about as to what were the what was the reason for his killing. For instance, in the Rajdev's case at Siwan, it is said that because of some writing by him or some photograph by that particular journalist against a very powerful, or I don't know what expression I should use, but yes, powerful, he got a journalist killed, while in jail. A person who was a journalist has been killed, or a journalist has been killed. One's vocation may be journalist, but he can be killed for other purposes also, other reasons. There was a killing of a journalist in Gaya about 1.5 years earlier. And what we found that his wife had 3 sisters, his wife has 2 other sisters, and there was property dispute amongst the sisters. And therefore he was killed. Right now we don't have any control or any say about the social media, because at the time the Act was created in 1966, excepting the print media and few government-controlled media, electronic channels, there was nothing. Now it has come, and it's very powerful. We have suggested for bringing the social media within the purview of the Press Council of India. We have asked, in fact, for the Media Council, which includes the social media, which includes the TV channels and all those things. And the perpetual reply which we are getting for the last 5 years, I have seen the correspondence, it is under consideration of the government. But assurance I want to give you, if you are being abused because you are doing a professional work, in doing the professional work you are being abused, kindly trust us. Actually, there is a trust deficit in that sense. You believe that we can't do anything. Believe us. First, believe us, write to us, and see what can be done and what we will be able to do it. We are devising ways and means how to protect you from any kind of onslaught from any quarter. Maybe government, maybe the functionaries of the government, maybe those persons, the mafias, because you are the target not only of the government, you are the target of the mafias, you are the target of any wrongdoers, you are the target of all wrongdoers. My goal is that all the journalists in the country work with freedom. Only many times few of them deviate. I add one word with that: freedom with responsibility. Only assurance I give that I will do my best, my council will do its best to remedy any of your grievances which is just and proper. Thank you.
One of the things in this discussion which has been missed out, which I must mention, is the question of paid news.
I think the paid news is a very complicated issue in the sense that paying whom and who pays. Sometimes it is perhaps the journalist himself is paid by the concerned person. Sometimes it is the management which is paid, and management just tells you to write a story accordingly. Sometimes the advertiser pays the management and a person in between in the place, maybe news editor or reporter, and they get the story which they want. So paid news, this paying business operates at various levels. It has become, unfortunately, a practice these days, particularly during election time, that not only the print media but the TV media also gets adequately paid.
We have a large number of complaints from the Election Commission of India. All these complaints were considered by the Press Council of India. Fortunately, I have the order which the Press Council of India has passed so far the paid news are concerned. Paid news would mean any words happening in media or omitted from media. Omitted to print is also a paid news, could be a paid news. in lieu of a consideration given either earlier, at the time, or after publication in any form. It's not only the money transaction, there are various ways and means. And this is how we have defined. Actually, the parliamentary committee had considered it and said that anything paid for publication. Then what we suggested that no, many things are not printed for consideration, and therefore it also comes in the category of paid news. Further, we have elaborated. What we have said that so far as the paid news are concerned, it's conceived in fraud and delivered in deceit, and therefore to have a direct evidence is very difficult. You can't have a direct evidence for that. But we have given certain guidelines. We have said that no hard and fast rule can be laid down. It will depend upon the facts and circumstances of the case.
The only way to prevent it, the government has to strengthen Working Journalist Act, defending press freedom. It is not freedom for the owners, remember it. It is not freedom for the big industrial houses who owns media. Basically, they all mean it freedom for the journalists in this country. And why freedom for the journalists? Because if journalists are free in this country, then only our democracy can be protected. So our mandate in the Press Council is to look after only newspapers, the printed one, not the electronic media or other media. But we have just taken a decision in council. If there is an attack in any journalist of any media anywhere in the country, Press Council will take up that case. Because when there is an attack, somebody has to stand for us. And that's the reason we need unions. Nowadays it's very good, the press clubs are taking over it. Because wherever the unions are a little weaker, the press clubs are taking. In Delhi also, the Delhi Press Club takes the initiative. In Bombay, you people have taken the initiative. And because you have informed us, we also reacted because of that. So we need a link also between us. Social media is not journalism. Remember it. We can't equate both. In social media, people write without responsibility. As Justice Prasad has said, journalism is always with responsibility. Whenever we write or we report anything, we take that responsibility on us. Social media, unfortunately, nobody takes responsibility. Our media has to be more responsible, and that's the reason to preserve this or the free press in this country. We demanded from the Indian Journalist Union, we must have a special law to protect journalists in this country. We have sent it to government. And the first round of government saying, no, the present laws are adequate. We know it, they will say. But we had to pressurize the journalist community in this country. If we want a free press, then protection of Journalist Act is essential in this country. And I can tell you, the UNO also came out with this, and they have told their member countries to please come out with a law where protection of journalists should be ensured.
So, Mr. Atul Tatre is one of the persons who was brutally assaulted in front of Bombay House, the Tata headquarters, by the guards of top screw.
Thanks Press Club, thanks Press Council of India. You always support budding journalists. That's it. Camera behind man, I can't speak more, but thanks.
एक ही बात हम आपको कहना चाह रहे हैं और सभी को कहना चाह रहे हैं, ऐसे दिमाग में न रखिए कि कोई बहुत बड़े आदमी हैं और बहुत पैसे वाले हैं तो शायद बच जाएंगे. कितना भी बड़ा आदमी होगा, they will be brought to justice.
Press Council has specifically requested the Government of India to bring in a law, a specific protective law for allowing journalists to report freely and truthfully. For some reason, it has been lying in consideration or it has been rejected. Now, similarly, there was a parallel thing in Maharashtra where a large number of our journalist bodies joined together, and in fact, the proposal was accepted by Ashok Chavan's government. And in fact, he asked the law department to draft the law. For some reason within their party, there was opposition that this will give more power to the journalists, and somewhere it was shot down after having reached a very sort of advanced stage. And after that, of course, the government changed, and we have the Devendra Fadnavis BJP-led government today. And one of the early suggestions which they had accepted was they would also bring such a law. There is a lot of issues at the Mofussil and district level for the stringers, small journalists, and the Maharashtra government is looking into it. So on these issues, if Jason Saab could say a few words.
It is actively under our consideration. We are processing it, and within some time we'll come up with something. Though I can't assure because there's a process to it. Earlier it was sort of rejected by a ministerial committee. So we are processing it. We are studying what objections were raised by that ministerial committee, how to answer them, and once it is done, we will send a comprehensive proposal to Law and Judiciary and the other departments concerned. The question is, who is a journalist and who is not? So I heard news that writing on social media is not journalism, but Twitter is also giving you news. Now, also, if you look at the nature of writing on social media and on blogs and generally on the internet, it does not have any kind of regulation, yes. It does not have any kind of curation. So there's no editor sitting on it. But yes, it has its positives also. There's no business interest deciding what not to write against and with whom do we have a treaty or not. When we talk of these freedoms, it's also essential to understand that these freedoms are limited by Article 19 itself. Article 19, which gives you these freedoms in the Constitution of India, also talks of the sovereignty and integrity of the nation. Now, there is a variety of writing, and there is a large variety of writing nowadays, and there's a large variety of standpoints. But I think probably it would be good to look back at the guiding principles of the Constitution and check whether we are transgressing any of those 8 conditions. Whether, in our zeal to protect whatever we feel is the truth. The responsibility that a transgression does not take place is of the journalist himself and of nobody else. So, and also on the point of trawling is like now the market economy. So, there are forces and there are counter forces. So if you have the right to opinion, other person also has the right to opinion. And it's equally important. Please don't feel offended. So maybe that you are not using abusing words, he's using abusing words. What also has happened in the last some years is that probably press has become a business activity for the houses which run. And as my journalist friends tell me, it was said in the meeting of one of this thing, that news is something which you bring, the news is something to be printed between the ads. It was said in an editorial week, people would, stand by it. So, no, it was said here in nearby. It was said here nearby. And we are aware of where it was said, and that it means a lot. So, now after that, if I start claiming that let truth prevail or something like that, then it's slightly doubtful. If you look at even the government servants, there is no act to protect the government servants. There is an act to protect government work. So there should be an act to protect journalistic work and not the journalist. Until and unless that kind of assault was done to deter him from discharging his official duty, it does not become a crime. So there are nuances to it. Let's not be emotional about it. In China, there is such huge state surveillance that you cannot utter every single tweet. They don't have Twitter, they have invented their own Twitter, they don't have Google, they have their own Baidu. But everything is monitored there. We talk of freedoms, we should go and look at these societies.
The idea for special law for protection of journalists came from Mumbai after the death of just the Jyotirmaya Day. We picked it up. We collected views from several agencies, including governments. We want a special law which ensures that these cases are decided in a time frame. It should be done day to day. There should be hearing, day to day hearing, and the adjournments. See, for everything they adjourn for 3 months, 6 months, and again the accused will come before the court and ask for another adjournment. There will be going on arguments. The press council should be given the power to monitor the progress of the case. Supreme Court is monitoring some cases. High Court is monitoring some cases. Likewise, when it comes to killing of a journalist, it should be entrusted to either a court or say High Court of the state concerned or a peer body like press council. Without ethical behavior, there cannot be any good journalism. See, the difference between others, a story written by others and journalists is that we contextualize it, we give a perspective, we check facts, and then only we report. I am not prepared to accept about national interest, about patriotism, or anything given by a ruling party's perspective. If I speak something against government's policy or government's action, don't dub me unpatriotic. I am born here. I love my country as anybody else. But don't tell me national interest is the interest of the ruling party or ruling assault. In name of patriotism, if I question anything done by the government or police establishment, if I raise questions, if you tell me I'm unpatriotic, I don't mind to be unpatriotic, but I am true to my profession. I will stand by what I feel correct and I will express it at the pain of punishment. I will not go back on that. And don't teach journalists about patriotism or national interests. They are not there to protect patriotism and national interests. They are there to protect the freedom of expression enshrined in the Constitution.
सबसे ज़्यादा खतरा आज पत्रकारों को अपने मैनेजमेंट से है, अपने संपादकों से है। इस पर चर्चा जरूर होनी चाहिए। कितने संपादक हैं जो मैनेजमेंट के इशारे पर आज जो भी मजीठिया वेतन आयोग या वेतन आयोग की बात करता है उसको शोषण हो रहा है। हजारों लोगों से लिखा के लिया गया है कि आपको वेतन आयोग नहीं चाहिए। आप सोचिए जिनको 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 रुपए मिलते हैं, हम किस प्रेस फ्रीडम की बात कर रहे हैं? आप प्रधानमंत्री से मिलने वाले हैं, प्रधानमंत्री से कहिए हम देश की बड़ी बड़ी बातें कर रहे हैं। मजीठिया वेतन आयोग के लिए जो 6 साल पहले हो चुका है उसको अमल करने के लिए कोई बात सरकार की तरफ से क्यों नहीं हो रही है? हमारा श्रम विभाग क्या कर रहा है, श्रम मंत्रालय क्या कर रहा है? हमें इस पर बहुत गहराई से सोचना चाहिए। मैं सुप्रीम कोर्ट की सुनवाई में मैं कुछ समय से जा रहा हूँ, उसको एक समय लग रहा है, उसके कॉन्ट्रैक्ट के इशू पर आ रहा है। कॉन्ट्रैक्ट वाला जर्नलिस्ट किसी भी तरह से फ्रीडम ऑफ एक्सप्रेशन का एक्सरसाइज नहीं कर पा रहा। वो चाहे कर भी किसी के खिलाफ नहीं लिख सकता क्योंकि मैनेजमेंट और संपादक उसको कहता है कि मत लिखिए, आपका जो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट है रिन्यू नहीं होगा।
प्रेस काउंसिल किसी भी जर्नलिस्ट के सर्विस कंडीशंस के बारे में कोई चर्चा नहीं कर सकता है, ये हमारे मैंडेट में नहीं है। एडिटर की लॉयल्टी अपने जर्नलिस्ट के प्रति कम और बैलेंस शीट पर ज़्यादा हो गई है। एक्चुअली दे आर लुकिंग टू द बैलेंस शीट ऑफ द न्यूज़पेपर, इसलिए प्रायोरिटीज डिफरेंट हो गया है। हम लोग बार बार कर रहे हैं कि आप ऐसे लोगों को एडिटर बनाइए जिसका रुझान बैलेंस शीट की तरफ न हो। उस सब्जेक्ट पर हमारा एक डिफरेंट व्यू है, उस सर्विस कंडीशंस का यदि बेयरिंग फ्रीडम पर होगा तो फ्रीडम को प्रिजर्व करना हमारी ड्यूटी है, तो शायद उस एंगल से एग्जामिन करना चाहिए।
ये हम लोगों ने पार्लियामेंट्री कमेटी में भी जब गए थे, तो बेसिक बात है कि वर्किंग जर्नलिस्ट एक्ट यदि स्ट्रेंथन हो, क्योंकि उसमें फाइनेंशियल सिक्योरिटी भी है और इट शुड बी एक्सटेंडेड टू इलेक्ट्रॉनिक मीडिया। ये एक डिमांड है। इफ ऑल जर्नलिस्ट मेक दिस डिमांड, I think things will change.
You spoke briefly about surveillance. So you mentioned Al Jazeera and some Pakistani publications. Is it a government policy that if you write for any of these publications, you fall on the surveillance grid?
Look at the source. So if the source itself is muddy, I don't know how clear the water would be in your hands. That was just a moral exhortation.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with.
Because you also mentioned Saudi Arabia and China. I think it's a little unfair to compare India to them because we'll always come out shining. I know that we live in a surveillance state, and there are lots of journalists whose stories have been deleted, whose emails to editors in India and abroad have been deleted because of what they report on. So I don't think we can absolve ourselves in any way. Also, I would urge Justice Prasad to consider surveillance, make it a part of the law, that there should not be any surveillance on journalists. They have to be treated differently from regular people. I think that has to be a...
Send it to us. We will take care just now.
Stories are also being deleted online. So if you're not keeping track of your work, suddenly you'll find that your stories have been deleted mysteriously. So this is more pronounced in conflict zones, but I have seen this happen in this city as well.
But Dilhaz, what they are urging again and again is that general positions and presentations, they can't take cognizance of. They need specific complaints, properly researched complaints which point a finger in a specific direction, which they can then take up for investigation. So
trust us. Give us the complaint. Anybody, however mighty, rich, whatever, they will be brought to justice. That assurance I am giving you, and I am giving you everywhere. Because all these things happen in private. We don't know about it.
How do you take action against newspapers which fan communal feelings? Whether it is by their own editorial stands or the way they report, or by defaming a whole community by the way they report terrorism, or even the way love jihad is reported with graphic visuals. I mean, there are some papers like Samna which openly say that we don't care for the press councils.
I believe in the principle that everybody has a right of his views. You may agree with his view, you may not agree with his view. You believe something hurts the feeling of a person, other believes it's truth. If that be so, unless it crosses a border, what we call to be Lakshman Rekha, otherwise we will be curtailing the freedom of the press, and I am deeply opposed to curtailing the freedom of the press.
During the 1993 riots, there were complaints made to the press council against Samna's writing. So we never heard anything that came out of that. And during the 2002 Gujarat thing, the editors guild themselves had investigated the Gujarati press's role in the riots. So these are very concrete examples, and this has nothing to do with freedom of expression. These are actually inflammatory articles which are directed and meant to provoke violence and hatred.
In 1990 also, some of the papers have been censored. At that point of time by press council, which is the maximum thing what we can do.
Editors used to be a lot more powerful in the past. I think that the power is shrunk now. Also, even during the last couple of decades that I have been in journalism, I think we all remember very famous editors who were summarily dismissed. So the strength to stand for something that editors used to have in the past has shrunk over time and is even less now than it was maybe 10 years ago.
In fact, the institution of the editors have been finished. Sorry to say this, but this happened here. They become a business managers, which is a really saddening fact. And that's why we are demanding not only Working Journalist Act, but the institution of the editor should be reinstated in the newspapers or new media, which is very important. If that is not done, I think we are going to face all this.
The editor-in-chief is usually the proprietor of the newspaper, as a rule.
No, but no, it was not
all
the
the
time.
case. It is not the case.
Yeah.
Now, as a rule.
No, that is the institution of the editor has been finished.
So, not to create a dichotomy between editor and proprietor,
Right.
now it has been dovetailed into one.
I had the occasion to write a judgment on behalf of the Supreme Court. And so far as the law is concerned, law recognizes only one editor, which is declared as an editor under the Press and Registration Act. Whatever nomenclature you use, the person who has been declared as an editor in the declaration before the under the Press and Registration Act, he is the editor.
Recently, I think PCI has asked the state government to give compensation if journalist is killed. I think 10 lakh compensation, and if is grievously injured, then 5 lakh compensation. What is the status of that?
We said adequately compensated, but you see, because it has to be accepted and it has to change from time to time. And in some cases, as early as 2004, we demanded 10 lakhs for a journalist who was killed, and the state government paid for it. In case of Jogendra Singh, we recommended, the press council team recommended 25 lakhs and they paid that.
Thank you very much for your patience. We've had a long conclave. Thanks very much for participating.